this movie could be shorter, but then it would have had a plot. And he said that in a positive light, and I might not like Roger Ebert anymore.
But it was like, weirdly enough, I paced it in 3 70-minute sittings, right?
Yes.
Although I messed up a little at the end and did a half hour.
I followed your lead on that one.
It's weird. It's kind of has a strange structure in 3 parts. You know,
do tell.
Well, you know, there's the development of learning about this guy. I forgot his name.
That fucking guy again.
Alexander. Alexander. And you kind of see where he's coming from, and he talks about himself a lot. The second part is more the kind of accepting different kind of the relationship and making, and him trying to make it a little bit deeper and manipulating a bit. The third is them just rejecting him. You know, it's like at the end he gets to the point where he pisses everybody off. So it was interesting in that respect, but there was no plot. It's just, I think it's how it came together, basically.
Anybody else think a lot about Linklater's Before Sunrise watching this?
A little bit.
Yeah, I try not to think about Before Sunrise.
I wondered how much of this.
Oh, you're going to eat those words in a little bit, Tad.
But you know, the thing.
God damn it!
The thing is, what I said is that this film, weirdly enough, by the second screening, is kind of charming me a little bit. Because there was an aspect about it where you don't turn the camera off. There's a bit where there's a date where they go to a bar and you skip the entire thing. Then they go to a restaurant. He's talking all about the restaurant. I think Garde Nord. I'm not sure exactly which one it was.
Yeah, it's in one of them.
Yeah, and he's talking about how great it was. Then they went afterwards to another bar. And so, but
you see the whole date,
you see the whole thing. There's almost nothing cut out of it, and there's a kind of natural flow to it. It just was at the end. It was like I just feel like I kind of jumped in their life a little bit. It was.
I think that's the appeal, and it was the appeal for me when I was probably 19 or 20, and I saw this movie for the first time. Mm-hmm. This is my second. That was to be young and have shiftless and have nothing to do but hang out in cafes and try to pick up girls.
Smoke cigarettes and drink Pernod.
Smoke cigarettes, drink Pernod. And he ends up with 2 girls in the sack at one point. So
now, you know what?
Come on.
Well done, sir. Well
What's
done.
not to like?
John, do you remember when you saw it in Bigby's class? Did they show it over 2 periods?
Yeah, we had to come back to the next class the next day and watch the second half.
Right.
Holy cow! 2 parts.
Like 3.5 hours. So.
Yeah, he made it fit into 2 classes, as I recall.
Yeah. I want to fucking medal for watching this movie. I hate this movie more than anything that's ever been on this. Like this guy, this guy is the worst. He is the worst person.
Wait, you'd rather watch Knight Riders than this?
I'd rather watch Knight Riders. I'd rather watch Tenet again. I would watch Tenet again.
Oh,
this is
those are strong words. Those are strong
words.
words.
It's kind of Tenet-like. There's some forward and backward motion. No, I'm just kidding. There's nothing like Tenet at all.
Not at all like Tenet.
It's long. Like Tenet was kind of long.
Except that it's long.
It's long. It is officially, John, the longest film we've watched.
I picked the longest and shortest. I just wanted to set records.
I know. It's well done.
If not for the 2 female leads, I would have disliked this a lot more.
And also, it's something about
they're only good in short moments. There's short moments where they're good, but the rest of the time,
French film. So that was a little bit easier.
His roommate to me is the one who's the most appealing because she won't take his shit. Yeah, she does take his shit technically because she doesn't throw him out. It's her damn apartment. He's not.
And then she tries to kill herself, and then tries to throw him out because they start fucking again after she tries to kill herself.
There's a possibility that
within about 60 seconds.
So just a little housekeeping. The roommate's the mother, and Veronica's the whore, right? Just checking.
Yes,
of course.
There's no ambiguity there. They're not like reversed or anything like that. I just wanted to double check.
It's pretty straightforward.
I mean, what a male gaze movie too. It's all about this fails the Bechdel test like for 3 hours, man. All the it's like hard, and it's all about the male perspective. It's all about his conquest, all about him, and he's just a bore. He just loves
he's
talking
all about
movies.
him, and that's the thing that's so fucking bad about this movie is you just keep listening to him talk about himself for hours.
Well, sometimes he talks about society and humankind, but
movies, don't forget,
but not in an interesting way. He's dumb. Like this is a dumb man who only cares about himself and just carries on through for this entire movie. And like, yeah, maybe in 1970 when they made this, it was an interesting thing to say, but like, I know enough dumb men who only talk about themselves. I don't need to see them on fucking film.
For 3.5 hours.
For 3.5 hours.
Okay, can I quickly give guys? Hey, let me give you my first impression. I think of any film I've rewatched for yelling about movies, this is the one that I have reevaluated the most. Because when you're 19 or 20 or whatever old I was when I saw it, hang out in Paris, drink Pernod, 2 women in my bed. What's not to like? This guy looks so cool with his sunglasses on. He even wears them indoors. I thought he was cool, and I thought this whole movie was cool. And now it's just like, what a colossal tool this guy is. This movie reminded me more of Alfie than anything else we've watched.
Yeah, me too.
It's a movie about a guy, and I think the movie knows. When I was watching it when I was 19,
on purpose, John.
I don't think I knew, but I think the movie knows what a terrible person he is. It just took me a while to catch up.
It definitely knows.
And there's nothing wrong with making a movie about terrible people when you know, like
we've seen a few of them
Most
on
of
this
the
show.
movies we've seen at Yelling About Movies.
Yeah, I think this
been
guy,
about terrible people.
But this guy,
but this isn't
this
interesting.
this guy's not a player like Alfie necessarily. There's a big difference.
He's more of a wounded child.
Yeah,
right.
He wants to be a player like Alfie.
Right.
He's just not
Alfie's
good enough.
also older.
But the fact that these two women love him.
I mean, really love him.
Inexplicably.
And have sex with him. Like, that is, I mean, it's almost not his fault because he is a piece of shit.
Right.
He's not pretending to be anything that he's not. He wants to be something that he's not, but he's also not this, like, he's not this malicious, like, dude. He's not a player. He's not a,
No, he's not malicious. He's selfish and self-absorbed. He doesn't even know what he's doing.
So
I don't think anyone in this movie knows what love is.
No,
I don't think any character in this movie knows.
I mean, that's still debatable.
No, I'll second what.
Yeah,
I'll second what Chad said. This movie is like an ode to your 20s. This is about smoking and drinking and fucking. Yeah, that's what you want to do when you're in your 20s.
And borrowing money.
And being broke. And having your furniture on the floor and listening to records. And that's all they do.
That was another thing that amazed me.
I'm feeling fairly judged here.
Oh,
What about you, Tag?
That was another thing I think that struck me, and why I thought this movie was so great. Back then was that I was 19 and I hadn't seen that many different kinds of movies. I'd certainly never seen a movie where somebody says, "I want you to hear this record," and then they put the fucking record on, and we stay on it and we listen to the whole song.
Yeah,
he's like this every time in this movie.
Is this that pee off song at the end?
Yeah.
I was like, that was the weirdest music video I've ever seen in my life. It's like, I was watching the record head go across the plate, right?
Sadder and sadder.
Yeah, I actually really like.
Which is it's kind of like that moment.
The only one that has pops and crackles in it.
Yeah,
too.
it's almost like that moment in Big Night where they make the egg. It's like it's one of those things where you see the process. There's one.
It gets sadder and sadder should be the tagline for this movie.
Sadder and sadder.
I really love the shot of her. I love the shot of Marie listening to the whole song.
I know that's what we're talking about. It's like wasn't that odd?
It was kind of like Rooney Mara eating the pie in Ghost Story.
Yeah, there you go.
It's just one take, no cut, the whole thing.
Still rather watch Rooney Mara eat a pie.
That got crazy after a while.
But I would too. I agree with Tad there a little bit, but I actually enjoyed watching Marie listen to that song. I don't know what it was. I was a fan of that shot.
Jared, in film class in 1980, whatever, I was spellbound. I was just I was seeing a great special effect. Just the audacity of just staying on somebody while they listen to a whole song on a record player.
It was crazy.
It blew my mind.
And I want to bring up Veronica's has a really good monologue toward the end.
Oh yeah! Oh my god!
That's the thing that everyone remembers this movie for. Like that
was just stunning, wasn't it?
Yeah, I thought her acting was very good. It seemed real.
Mm-hmm.
At the time, that's what everyone talked about. Later on, if you go back and you read like re-reviews of it and stuff like that, the thing that everyone talks about is that monologue. And that monologue is good.
Right.
And if this movie was just that monologue and nothing else, that would have been way better.
It is. I think like just
But
over
you couldn't
10
have
minutes.
that
It's almost
monologue
10
without
minutes.
I disagree with
That
that.
monologue
about 10 minutes
wouldn't,
long.
that monologue wouldn't make sense. That monologue is like if you had the
It's
rest
the
of the
climax.
movie,
Yeah,
exactly.
You have to
I don't
have
think
that
you need the
for-
rest of the movie to contextualize it. He's a bad
but it's
person.
like listening to a
Move
dance
along.
song and it's only the drop. You can't have the drop without the buildup.
That's literally dubstep. You were talking about dubstep, which
That's
is
why
great.
dubstep is awful and it's already dead.
Dubstep is great. Fuck you.
It's not even in the zeitgeist anymore. It's gone.
Well, mind you,
Because it's been cycled back around into popular music. Like
But you
now,
can't have the drop. You have to have the build.
no, the drop is the only thing that matters.
But it doesn't exist without the build.
Drop doesn't exist without the build. Right.
Happening.
Because by definition,
I
the
don't know what's
drop,
happening here. This is like
the drop is it's literally called drop. You can't drop from nothing. You have to build and then drop it.
No, but you can have 10 or 12 seconds and then you can drop. That's
Okay,
fine.
okay.
So
Because
how many
that-
angels can dance in the head of a pin? Really? Let's get down to it, man. All right. But
Anybody else?
11 or 12, as long as one
Okay,
is,
anyway,
is Ted
but
Mouse.
going back to that monologue again, two things. One, it's like this is what a 20-year-old girl would just talk about herself, and it's a weird kind of almost adolescent confessional. And the second thing about that is that it's about just over 10 minutes long, which is exactly the capacity of a 400-foot magazine on the Eclair camera. So they loaded it up, said go, and they went until they ran out of film. In fact, I listened to this thing with cans, and you can hear the Eclair in the background, like that scene from Inherent Vice.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, a lot of
Yeah,
scenes.
you can hear the camera a lot.
Yeah.
I also watched this on my laptop with headphones because it was a YouTube thing, right? So
Yep.
And I was actually surprised at how I think the sound in this picture is very, very good for 70.
It is. It's really crisp.
For a cheap
This thing on YouTube was actually pretty watchable.
Yeah,
It's really
cheap-
watchable.
Obviously,
I
it's
think
a
the
pretty low
YouTube
budget
version-
film. They did a good job with the sound.
I think the YouTube version is the like remastered 35 millimeter version that they put out.
Yeah.
Because originally it came out in a 16 millimeter print, and that seems like it would be a nightmare.
No, it was shot in 16.
No,
and at
I
one
could
point
tell it was
shot
shot in
35.
16, but yeah. You could tell
But,
it was shot in 16.
Otherwise, when
But they redid it into 35 millimeter and put it out in like 1992 or something like that. Like
I also
There
like
was
how
another release.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love how everything in their apartment was on the fucking floor.
That's kid stuff, right?
Literally,
That's
yeah.
college
Also-
living, right?
Did you see how dirty the door was on the
Oh
inside?
god. The
And
It's like-
door,
everybody's fingers.
the door and the
Everybody's
carpet.
fingers are stained with nicotine.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah. Well, everything was coated
Yeah,
with smoke back then.
if you
Smoke and probably Pernod vomit.
if you
It's like-
smoke and
And he
drink,
never
as much
did
as
change
those
the
people-
sheets, did he?
Uh-huh.
No,
My god. You
Does
can't-
anybody here actually like Pernod? Does anyone have?
I
yes,
like
I do.
Oh,
Yeah.
I can't. I think it's
Quite good.
disgusting.
I've never had-
It tastes like Good and Plenty. It tastes like Ouzo. It tastes like any of those things. It
Yeah,
tastes-
it's just
you
like, you
drink
know.
it with water. It's good.
Yeah.
Well, you have to.
I'm a
She
big
was doing
fan of
that, too.
absinthe too. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, there's that. I think that at least what's his name? Alexander had a taste for American booze, which is kind of fun.
Yeah. J and B.
J and B, and they were passing a bottle of Jack in the beginning.
there's some
That was
Jack
like-
in
that
this
was
And
kind
I
of
love
fun.
how they just
Oh,
all drink from the bottle. You know?
Yeah, like nobody
Yeah,
has
what
a
the fuck?
friggin'
Everybody
glass.
does that in this. But
I watched a 3.5-hour black and white movie about French people,
Mhm.
and two French women got naked a few times, and to me that's more of a turn on than any porno I watch online, like ever. Like I'm just gonna say there's something about it's the context, you know what I'm saying?
Imagine John and me seeing it when we were 18 and 19.
Right?
Again, it's a strange enchantment. This film. It's very.
College.
There's one point in the film where they're in a date, Veronica and Alexander, and she goes to the bathroom. She goes down the stairs,
Yeah.
and the camera stays on him. And then the waiter comes over and says 2 more whiskeys, and
Yeah.
he waits. The whiskeys come, sets him down. He like
And
smokes
she
a
comes back.
cigarette. Then she comes back, and there's literally no take. There's no cut.
Yeah.
And I was like, you don't see that very much anymore. Everyone's using cinema time. This was not
I
cinema
thought
time.
there was some good attention to detail.
Oh, yeah.
Like in all the cafes and the bars, there's so much like hubbub and what to do about little teeny things. Like they bring you every single fucking glass has to have a fucking plate underneath it.
Oh, yeah.
Every single you sit down and you're ordering
They
like
still
one
do
drink.
this.
and it looks like you've had a fucking 3-course meal.
Oh yeah,
around you. I just don't understand.
That is pre-McDonald's Paris, man. That's
the other thing about whenever Alexander's out on the street in a cafe or a restaurant or whatever, he's always on the make. It's like if he's got 1 second, he'll be distracted by a girl walking by. You know, he followed that one down the street.
His eyes in this movie, anytime a woman comes anywhere near him, is one of the best things about this movie.
And it's
like he just immediately, anytime there's a woman, he's just like, oh.
No. And it's pretty honest too, because that's how guys are that age. You know, it's like, you know, your eyes are like,
and still doesn't ever stop.
Yeah,
we just get better at hiding it.
Yeah, that's true. Nothing. We're better at doing like furtive glances. Oh, bikini. You know, like, there it is. Yeah, but
also, who was the woman that she was super beautiful too? But the woman that loaned him the car.
The one that loaned him the car. Right?
Yeah. She was gorgeous. And then like they never showed her again, but he kept having the car. So I imagine that he kept borrowing that car like all the time. I don't know.
I guess.
Yeah. How did he?
It was so weird. It was so weird when he borrows the car and then he's driving for a little while and he pulls over and he just starts reading Le Monde. He's just like sitting in the car reading Le Monde.
Well, he's waiting for.
He's waiting for her eventually.
First girl, right?
But it's so it's such a strange scene because the movie doesn't give you anything about that. It's just like, oh yeah, this guy borrowed a car from his neighbor in the building and then drove for a while and started reading the newspaper. Fuck it. Like, I don't know, this movie.
Yeah. This is probably bad to admit, but I'll be honest, like, especially when I was young, like I kind of identified with this guy in terms of like how he relates to women, meaning like, you're not trying to be like an asshole and a player, but you want to have a connection, but you're also distracted by beauty and you know, like I had a lot of girlfriends when I was young, and even in my 30s, I had a lot of girlfriends, and you know, I just, there was part of me that identified with this dude, and I don't want to say 100% at all, no, but like a little bit of me had, you know, a little bit of sympathy or empathy, or just I recognized some of it.
Well, that's the 20th thing I'm talking about. This captures it. This is like French intellectual kids, you know, kind of like they don't have any money. They're kind of like, you know, just drinking and screwing.
Masculine, feminine, much better movie.
You know, masculine, that's a good match.
Yeah, I thought of Masculine, Feminine too.
Me too. Yes. I also thought, remember that movie, The Pickup Artist?
But Jim, hold that thought.
Except that was terrible, but it reminded me of that.
What'd you just say, Jim?
I said both those women have jobs. They have good jobs.
Yeah.
Too.
Which he does not have. He has
no need it.
He's mooching on everybody.
Yep, that's right.
Like,
he even says at one point, he's like, I'm so glad I don't have my own place.
Right.
He also
he's mooching on people in two different ways. He's mooching on them financially, but he's also mooching on them emotionally. Like, He's,
so for the record, I never mooched on anyone financially, by the way.
No.
You know what really gives him away is when he does one of his monologues about, you know, the way the world works. He said, after Veronica calls him up drunk, and he says, I kind of like it that she's out of control. I thought that people who worked would have it more together. Like, he has this theory about what people who have jobs are like, but he has no first person experience of that.
Yeah, okay, so that's an interesting. Yes, that was.
He is definitely a layabout.
Oh my God!
I want to point out something else, which is, especially Alexander, but this movie, dialogue-wise, is full of contradictions. People saying, I love this, and then I hate this. Like literally within 10 seconds of in the same sentence. Like they'll be like, did anyone pick up on that stuff?
All the machinations where it's like they're fighting like 5 times in the space of like a 10-minute scene.
Right. Well, what's better than makeup sex? Yeah. Like that's the whole thing here. This is just repeated makeup sex over and over again forever.
But there was a lot of hypocrisy. There was a lot of hypocrisy in these characters.
No, the end where the shit's hitting the fan and he's all upset. And he doesn't talk and he's hiding in the other room. Then he sits on the floor and kind of stares at nobody. And we're kind of the two girls are talking about him.
There's a lot of staring in the middle distance.
It was still all kind of circling around. But he never left. In fact, this reminds me of the play No Exit. It's like these three people are stuck together, you know, in a lot of ways.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Also, this might be
the author of No Exit is in the movie.
That's right. There you go. Also, this was this. Tell me if this was or was not Alphaville. So this wasn't set in Alphaville, was it?
Well, it's set in Paris during the.
Well, it looked like Alphaville to me. Maybe I just need new glasses.
Well, I mean, Alphaville was shot in Paris.
Right? Alphaville could happen around this movie. Like
I know this could be like a day in the life.
This movie has no politics really.
No, it doesn't.
So,
no, that's kind of interesting.
It could exist in a society that's slowly being taken over by a robot. Like that could happen.
Yeah. It also was made in 73, but weirdly looks like it was made in 63.
Yeah, no shit.
I really like the part where Alexander talks about, because this was me. He talks about I can't end anything. I don't let anything go. I just let it happen. Like he's like, I don't fucking like, because how can you say goodbye?
Right. He doesn't break up with anybody. He just waits for it to happen.
Right. Like
somebody to leave.
I love that because I realized in that moment of watching that film that that's how I used to be.
He's too lazy. He's too lazy to even do that.
Right.
But see, I wasn't lazy. It was just there's something about not like I think I really have thought hard and long about like I think women are better at being like, you know what? I'm fucking done with this. Mm-hmm. And I think men are kind of like you know, like I'm not gonna make a decision. Like I'm just gonna go with the flow and be here and like until, like I used to be like that. I used to be like, you know what? When it runs its course, it's gonna run its course. I'm not gonna do anything. I'm not gonna say anything. And I really, because part of it, the reason why is because I think Alexander has feelings for people and he doesn't want those like he doesn't want to say, okay, I'm not in love with you anymore because a little part of him is still in love with you.
Right.
And that was me. It was like, if I've ever loved you once, you still have a little teeny place in my heart. So it was hard for me to say like, you know what? No, this is not working and I'm out.
Right. I don't think that's necessarily a male-female thing. I think it's more of just how you process those types of feelings thing. You know, like,
yeah, like, I mean, I'm not saying it's specifically.
There are women who have those feelings, and there's men who have those feelings, and there's women who don't, and men who don't. Like, I think it is one of those things where what this movie does really well is look at narcissism, because this guy's a narcissist. Like everything in the world is about him, and even and not only is everything in the world about him, it even drags the women he's with into a world where everything's about them. Like they all get to the point where at the end of the movie, which is the best part, that they all realize that they need to deal with who they are more than they need to deal with the other people around them. Like her monologue is good because at the end of it she goes, I'm not a whore. Like
I loved her whole exploration of there's no such thing as a whore. That was brilliant.
I don't believe whores exist. Like I don't like her thing about like a relationship isn't valid if it doesn't produce a child, because that's
I don't agree with that either, but I love the idea because she actually made me think about, because I've thought about this before, about the notion of, you know, calling a woman a whore or you know, that whole double standard where if a man, you know, has a high
he's
number,
a player if he sleeps around, and she's a whore if she sleeps around.
Which I've always thought that was bullshit. So she really, you know, like the idea of the whore is sort of a stupid, dumb social construct, right? It doesn't it's not
and
real.
she says I have sex because I like having sex, and like that's an acceptable answer.
100%.
No matter what, that's an acceptable answer.
It doesn't matter.
And don't forget, this is 1972. We're like right in the thick of the sexual revolution.
Well, no, I'm actually going to come back and say this film feels pre-feminist. It's the point of view of the filmmaker. I think is like the only interesting story is the guy, and the girls are there to support him in this.
And that's not second
at the end of the film he comes to question it, but there is that assumption. You got to put yourself in the mind of 1973,
right?
This came out,
right? It's a male filmmaker, and he centers the male character, but at the end Veronica gets the monologue,
which is
neat,
he's actually kind of it's kind of wonderful. It's like a thesis, antithesis. It's a
it becomes second wave feminist.
It does.
It becomes second wave feminist.
Profoundly feminist at the end.
And this whole movie, though, I also never thought of these female characters as weak at all, especially Marie. The mother character.
Marie's great.
Yeah, the mother character in this film. I mean, she spits in.
Well, that's why I don't like the suicide scene.
Yeah.
I don't like the attempted suicide scene because that is too weak for her.
Like, it is too weak for her, but I also think she's almost like joking. I don't think those pills would have done what they. I think she was kind of.
Yeah, but then he runs up and shoves his fucking fingers down her throat and drags her into the bathroom.
Yeah, and
that was really uncomfortable.
Yeah,
that's him making more like that's him taking it seriously. Where I think she was just performing.
Yeah,
I feel like the movie.
I think he did that out of guilt a little bit.
The movie could have dealt with that better. And they don't, and that's another thing I don't like about it is they could have had that moment where she's like, fuck you, I wasn't doing what you think I was doing.
Yeah, that would.
But instead of that, she just comes out and says, get the fuck out of my house because you're fucking after I tried to kill myself.
Yeah, I think you have a good point there. If she would have come out and said there was only 12 pills in there, you fucking idiots, or something like that, you know? like that wouldn't have done shit. I'm just pissed at you, you know?
Right.
Like that would have been funny. The other thing that makes this movie cool, though, is I think Yarian was right that that his best friend was Clarence Boddicker. That's really cool.
Yeah, no, I think it looks like Chris. This dude.
Yeah, fucking
I didn't know Chris back then, so I can't.
Okay.
I still don't know if I like this movie or hate it. What I'll say is, you know, after you get like through that first 20 minutes to sort of get oriented to the vibe of this thing, it's like, oh man, it's gonna be a long 3 days. But I felt like the middle 2 hours weirdly moved pretty good. Like I didn't feel like it was an endurance test. I did think at times I'm like, I got to go see if Linklater gives us any credit for the Before trilogy, because it felt a lot like those movies to me. It also felt I unfavorably compared it to Masculine Feminine a great deal while watching it. If it weren't for the two actresses, this would have been torture, because every time they got like their moment, I felt like the movie got better.
Isn't one of them not an actress?
No, they're both actresses.
Are they? Okay.
What was the
Monica? The one
Chris, do you think
Marie died recently?
Who died?
The one who played Marie. She died in like 2018, and LeBron is still alive. And
she was the one that was like the revelation for me. Like the first few minutes, I'm like, oh man, I'm not sure she can act. But as the movie went on, I felt like she got better.
See, that's what I'm saying. I think she's not actually an actress.
Well, she became an actress.
Yeah. Like by the halfway point, I was totally invested in her character because I felt like she was the most interesting.
Right. Well, her character is the one that has an arc.
Yeah.
Right.
I thought one of the most ironic things for this was
he does not have an arc, by the way.
His character he remains the same.
Yeah.
Anyway,
and he's still the same today.
One of the things I thought was in the music.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, he's the same guy, just older.
I asked John the other night, like, how many movies have we seen this guy in now? Is this 3 or 4?
3 now.
He's in Alphaville for about 10 seconds.
Yeah, we're like 4 movies. We're like his fan club.
Is this the most watched actor of yelling about movies? It might be.
It might be.
So Alphaville, Masculine, Feminine, this one, and what's the other?
Irma
Vep, right.
Oh, wow. But his ascot was, I think, it was an interesting part of the whole movie, because
the
crazy speed racer thing he wore all the time. But that was like
the thing that got me.
That's not an ascot.
That's a scarf, man. That's just a scarf.
Hey, Jim.
Whatever. He was
Go, Jim.
Silk scarf he wore around there like a.
He's gone.
He's gone.
Bye, Jim.
Oh, he's got to put a scarf on. But anyway,
if I'd had time, I would have put on a jacket and a scarf.
But anyway, he wore the scarf. He was like the only dandified part of him. Basically, he's just like, he's always wears his crazy little scarf, right? Like speed.
Nice overcoat.
But you find out halfway through the film that no, that's Marie dressing him. Yeah, it was like his bit of a dead end, and that was.
Well, she's the mother. Like she's the mother. She's the one.
Yeah, exactly. She literally dresses the guy.
Did you bring a scarf, Jim?
We thought you put an ascot on. That's where we thought you left.
Oh no, I went to get another glass of wine.
Well, that's also French.
That's what I need as well.
The thing. Okay, so I've seen this movie now. I believe it's 4 or 5 times.
Holy shit!
He should get the medal.
Yeah,
I saw it twice in.
No, this is his fault. He didn't have to do it except for this time. This is the only time he had to do that.
I love this film, and it's interesting to see it over a period of. The first time I saw it was after I graduated high school, so 75, I think.
So it was a new release back then, right?
The spring of 75. It must have just come out.
Yeah.
73. And I remember being impressed by what an asshole he is, and yet sort of a cool asshole.
Yeah.
But I always was impressed with the women too, because it was the first time I ever saw women in a movie sort of like fight back against his assholishness.
Mm-hmm.
They do call him out for being a piece of shit.
The monologue has stayed with me for years. I mean, she just does a really good job, I think.
Really good job.
And I read somewhere that all the dialogue, there was a script, and
weirdly
these
enough, I
people
believe
are
that.
repeating his words almost verbatim.
Yes, it seems like this is improv for a lot of it, but it is not.
It's
Every
not.
single word in this film is written.
Well, let's not
This
forget.
was
the end. This is like the end of French New Wave. It's like the last stint.
Well, this is like the post New Wave.
Right.
This is a 300-page script.
Damn.
Wow.
300
Well, because
pages.
it's all dialogue, right?
Yeah, it's all dialogue.
Yeah, no,
Did you guys
it's mostly monologue, actually.
Right.
Any of you guys could have shot this. You know that, right?
Okay,
Yeah.
that brings me to the point I was going to make, which is I think one of the reasons it's so immersive is that it's all medium shots. So it's just like you are sitting in the cafe or in the apartment. There's like no wide.
No, this goes back to Henry. This goes back to the Henry.
Yeah,
Ford.
but they can't get any further away. They're going to hit the wall.
Yeah. Go ahead, Scott.
The only
This
part
goes
he
back to
busts
the
out
Henry
of
Ford
that,
idea of using one
the
lens to
scene
shoot
at
everything.
the end where he leaves Veronica's apartment and then he comes back. That courtyard is like the only time you see people.
You have to have
Right, a little bit smaller on the screen.
Yeah.
Right?
Like Scott brought up Henry Fool, which also has a lot of like medium to
It's
tight
all
shots.
just one lens.
Yeah.
Like this
One
movie,
lens.
like I mean, you guys are right. Like John and I could make a movie like this in terms of like
Sure.
pretty easy. But the thing is like Henry Fool and like this one, the lightning in a bottle, so to speak, is the actors. You have to find the right people to carry that kind of picture.
Yeah.
If you can't find the right people to carry a picture that's all mediums and close-ups, I mean, you're dead in the water. And these people,
dialogue or monologue.
yeah, you want to look at these people, you want to watch them, you want to see their performances. And I think that like there's a, this is the time where there's a bridge between what Chris Yarian would call, like, I forget what you call it, Chris, like the old-timey, the 40
movie.
What do you call it?
Old-timey movie.
Yeah, old-timey movie.
Golden age
Like,
cinema.
Because obviously this isn't the kind of acting that we see now today, but yet it's still really, really good acting. It's just, it's of the time.
It's not
It's
American
contemporary
acting.
to me.
It's definitely European.
I'm gonna
But
throw
it's very French New Wave, like watching Eric Romer film or something. You know what I mean? Like it's very French. It's very Bresson. Bresson was all about non-acting, right?
No, I'm gonna throw in a ding right here against the guy who played Alexander. I think that his dialogue when he talks and he's doing, he does actually. There's one point where he talks about beating his former girlfriend and that turned me off the whole character.
Oh yeah, that was
sometimes when he's up and walking around and doing things, he's not that good. He's kind of like doing his robot walk during most of the movie, where he's kind of following around and not. It's just weird. It's stiff.
Oh yeah, it's half man. It's half man, half machine. It's literally one of those like.
Yeah, it is. It's weird.
Right.
Like watching him work. It's like I don't think he's quite
But
comfortable.
it's obviously an act because in masculine, feminine, he's pretty good.
So okay,
well,
again, here too. Like,
wow,
this is a thinking, like just talking this through with you guys. Like I'm realizing how complex these characters actually are, and especially Alexander. Like, yeah, when he was talking about too that he hit like one of his girlfriends, I was like, oh man, no,
I know that wasn't cool.
Crossing a line.
No, yeah.
But then at the same time, like now I'm remembering though. You remember when he played that song for her and he kind of sang it at the same time?
Yeah.
That was the most adorable thing he did in the whole movie. I loved that.
Yeah, it felt really natural.
I'm going to bring up the 400
It was also the only time that he was like smiling in the film.
Right.
I'm going to bring up the 400 blows again because I would rather watch the 400 Blows again than this, because I feel like he was more complete of an actor in that movie at like 13 years old.
Right.
Oh,
Well, he
wow.
hadn't acted before.
Then he
But
was
you
in
have
this
a,
one.
but Tad, you and I know just as like children don't have any kind of sense of like embarrassment yet. A lot of them,
Right.
like self-awareness.
They're not self-conscious.
I'm on camera right now. What? They're just like, fucking just do this. They're like, okay.
Which will come back in the next movie, by the way.
I remember my first acting teacher was like,
right.
Go play with like a 6-year-old and tell them to be a king, and you'll see a king.
Right.
You will see a king walk out of that room. It's, you know, you tell an adult to play a king and they got this fake, like, you know, but a kid is just becomes a king or a queen or whatever it is. It's amazing. Children. They just, they don't act.
Right. They can access it instantly.
Yeah. And I mean, maybe the difference between a good actor and a bad actor is how much you can go back to that and be the king or be the knight or whatever. I'm not saying he's a bad actor, but it was just one of those things where like I was watching this and I just kept thinking about the 400 Blows and how much I liked his performance in that more.
Well,
you know,
I will say, you know, I've obviously reevaluated his character with the second viewing, because first of all, everything he said and did, but also the way he kisses women in every scene where he crushes his mouth against them and then shakes his head around. It's like, what is that?
See, that's the whole Robert.
So that is, wait.
From all
Let's go back.
50s movies where they
exactly. I was just gonna say, let's go back to the old timey thing.
It's from Hollywood movies, right?
Yeah, it's like a way that it used to be a way to screen kiss because you couldn't actually like make out.
Well, yeah, and you couldn't use tongue, right? So they have to like.
But here we are in '73 showing full on frontal. They should be able to make out.
Yeah.
Well,
but he learned it from the movie screen, I guess.
He learned it from the movies, like he learned.
The guy was big on movies.
Okay, look, I got hugged today for the first time since all of this started.
Congratulations!
A long time without a hug, dude.
That's a long time without a hug. And somebody
you started watching Mother and the Whore?
Yes. Yeah, the beginning of human history until now. This is the first time I've been hugged. But somebody was like, "Did you forget how to do it?" And it was like, "No, I didn't forget how to do it, but we're still in this point where we're negotiating everything."
Everyone's holding back on their hugs right now.
Right.
Yeah.
And it was one of those things where
you hug someone and they're kind of like that. They give you that little.
Well, you go all the way out like this, like you got the elbows out, you know, and it's one of those things where like it was fantastic to be hugged by a human being again, but also
you want that real hug.
Well, no, but I understand, like, yeah, you don't know how to make out with somebody because the way you learned it is from movies,
right?
You know, like that makes sense.
Movies at that.
Right, from old movies when they couldn't actually kiss.
He kissed
like I've heard complaints from a lot of people that people think that fucking today is like it is in porn.
Anyway,
this film, a big problem, Jim.
This film should have been a huge roadblock for me because it was 16 millimeter. It was 4:3. It was not a particularly good transfer.
You were yelling about it being Academy, man. But as soon as it was the thing is, you were in the chat just like fucking 4x3 Academy. All right.
Okay, thank you. Good enough. You done? All right, good enough. So anyway, the thing is,
was he not? Am I wrong?
Through all that murk and through all that kind of contrast, it kind of reached out and charmed me. I was really surprised by that. I was like, I was ready to hate it because it seemed like it was ponderous and dull and it was like uncut. The guy didn't believe in editing, but it was just something about it that just really got under my skin. It was very strange.
Yeah, I
well, he used mise en scène.
I second that.
The mise en scène, probably. Oh, he got fixed. That's great.